Just a couple of years ago, C8 Corvette prices were plummeting, but for the past 9 months, the crash has stopped. The market looks completely different now.
In this video, we'll dig into the data. What's happening to C8 Stingray prices, the inventory situation, and where on earth is the Z06 market heading?
Is the C8 still a bit out of reach? No worries, we'll also cover the C7 market.
Let's get this Corvette market update started.
Starting with the price trends for the C8 Stingray, we can see that prices were extremely high in 2021. Most cars were priced far above MSRP, but a lot has changed since 2021. Prices started to fall mid-21, and to the surprise of some, this fall would continue for a long time. Prices fell a bit quicker when winter was approaching and slower when summer was knocking on the door.
Now they say that history repeats itself, and indeed, so did the seasonal pattern in 2025.
But this time it's different. In August 25, prices were still at the same level as in November 24, while historically, prices in August set a new market low. The year-over-year price change ended now up at minus 5.3% for the coupes and minus 5.1% for the convertibles, a lot less than the 8 to 12% that we saw before. It also means that the median prices arrived at roughly $70,000 for the coupe and $78,000 for the convertible, and that prices now start in the low 50s. The flattening effect is especially clear if I detrend the price development. We can see now that the price trend was pointing down between mid-21 and the end of 24. In 2025 though, the trend flatlined. This is a clear trend change.
Now if we zoom into the coupe market, you can see that the flattening of the price trends applies to most model years.
We can see that cars from all model years, with exception of the ones from 2025, have been flat for the last 2 quarters and lost extremely little during the previous 3 quarters. The graph also demonstrates nicely how markups are decreasing over time, since pricing for more recent model years starts much lower than for the older model years.
Now all of this applies to clean title cars. Cars with a salvage title are priced much lower, and unknowingly buying such a car for the price of a clean title one means that you immediately lose a lot of money. The best way to prevent this from happening is to check the car's report on Car Vertical.
By using my promo code FWT, you get a 20% discount. This C7 Corvette, for example, seems like a decent car. However, the report raises several alarms, and one of them concerns the title check alarm. A salvage record is in place, and earlier pictures do indeed reveal that this car suffered significant damage. But that's not all. The report also contains a mileage alarm, showing that the mileage could be rollbacked. The car's mileage decreased from roughly 82,000 kilometers when the salvage title was created to 8,000 kilometers 8 months later.
You can use my discount code FWT to get 20% off your Car Vertical report. Checking the report costs only a fraction of what you could lose by unknowingly buying a car with a salvage title or illogical mileage. So things are looking pretty good for the C8 market, but could sellers just be sitting on a stock of inventory that they refuse to discount?
If we look at the carried over inventory rate, so the percentage of cars that are not sold within 3 months, we can see that the trend decreased. This means that the cars are selling quicker and are in fact selling as quick as in mid-2022.
Sellers know this, so they're hesitant to discount cars.
Looking at the price change for unsold cars, we can see that sellers discount cars a lot in the winter and less in the summer. The extent to which they do this though fluctuates and tells us something about the market strength. The market was weak in the 22-23 winter as discounts dropped to 7%. At the moment though, the market is fairly strong. Discounts during summer were basically non-existent, and now they sit at minus 2.5%. At the same time last year, this was 4.5%. Do you see that? We're close to the seasonal bottom, but discounts are only low.
Now the C8 Stingray is already celebrating its 3rd anniversary, so one could argue that it's only natural that prices started to decline slower. The Z06 market though is a lot newer, and that market looked fairly similar to the one of the C8 Stingray after its introduction.
The markups were huge.
But despite the similarities to the Stingray market, the price development is completely different.
We can see that prices start off far above MSRP at $220,000 for the coupes and $230,000 for the convertibles. Prices fell immediately after the introduction, and they did so at a rapid pace. But since the end of 24, a clear flattening is visible. Coupes lost 14% during last year, and Spyders 14.9%. Much more than the Stingrays, but much less than before. Prices are now back at somewhat more normal levels, $120,000 to $130,000. Increasing price strength is also reflected in the inventory data by a lower carried over inventory rate and lower discounts on unsold inventory.
Now this all looks like great news for owners, right? The C8s are finally dropping at more normal rates. However, this isn't a C8 specific development we're looking at here. The flattening of the price trends doesn't seem to be driven by C8 specific market characteristics. Rather, it seems to be driven by external factors that also drive the general sports and supercar market.
If we look at the development of the market trend, we can see that the depreciation rates have been decreasing since the pandemic price correction in 22-23. Yet, during 2025, the decrease accelerated. The average price change sits now at minus 0.3%, and most cars lost between 3% or gained 1%.
Even cars that are notorious for their high depreciation saw their price trends flatten.
In last week's mid-engine market update, we saw, for example, that the price trend in the MC20 and Altura market flattened. The MC20 market was basically flat through 2025, and the same can be said of the Altura market. Both models aren't the first ones for which you would expect strong price trends.
So many models that were falling rapidly flattened, and models that were already flat continue to be flat or even increased. Therefore, I think it's likely that the recent strength in the C8 market is driven by the same factors that influence the general sports and supercar market.
For buyers, this means that the bottom of the C8 Stingray market sits still in the low 50s for high mileage examples, and in the high 50s for ones with a more average mileage. These values are higher than what you would have maybe expected given the historical development in the price trend.
In that case, you might want to have a look at the C7 market.
Also, that market is doing well. Z06s are up by 4.3%, Grand Sports were basically flat at minus 0.7%, and Stingrays lost 2.9%. The median price for a Stingray is $45,900, but the market bottom for average mileage examples has been fairly stable at the high 30s. The ZR1 of course deserves its own graph. It's no surprise that prices are strong in this market. They're up by 1% compared to last year and sit now at approximately $190,000.
Now the big question is of course, what will happen next? The answer to this question is extremely difficult to give, since the increasing strength in the sports and supercar market seems to be driven by external factors.
As you know, I don't really make predictions on this channel because I think it's pointless without a validated model. I only speculate, and for this I mainly rely on the predictive properties of the trend itself.
So based on this, we should expect that C8 Stingray prices continue to fall at a modest rate, meaning that we should no longer see them in the top 25% quickest depreciating cars. Rather, I think it's likely that they will move to the space between the top 25% and the average. The crash appears to be over. And with that we arrived at the end of this video. Now if you enjoy this data-driven way of analyzing car prices but would like to see a video for a different car, head over to my channel. Over there you'll find detailed market analysis for a large variety of cars. Can't find the car you're looking for? Let me know the name of that car down below in the comment section. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I'll make a video about it. As always, thank you for watching and I hope to see you again in 2 weeks for a fresh market update.